Hey there, this is Professor Purl, a YouTube channel about knitting and other crafts. I'm Nicole and this is episode 15. If you watched episode 14, you will notice we are back in our cozy, comfy space. I recorded the last episode outside because it's been really nice here in Oregon where I'm filming this, but there's some construction work going on. Actually not that close to my house, but I could hear kind of the beeping and I decided to return to this space inside. And if you're new here, thanks for checking this channel out. You can find me on Instagram as profpurl, Ravelry as profpurl. There's a Ravelry group if you use Ravelry called Professor Purl Podcast, and there's an email, and all of that information as well as show notes about everything I'm talking about with links and things are in the description box below. If you see, like, there's like an arrow you can click and all that will be down below. So I'm just gonna hop into finished objects. And the first finished object that I'm wearing is my Trelawney top. So the last episode I shared that I was nervous if I would finish this on time because it was a test knit and I still had the body to do and my sleeves, I mean, they were short sleeve, obviously, but I finished with a whole day to spare and was able to block it and everything. And so all the ends are woven in, it's blocked, I've worn it. The only thing that's not done is I did make a little mistake in the color work. Like you can see, I didn't finish this leaf or this leaf, and then there's one other leaf I didn't kind of top off. And I was gonna go through and duplicate stitch that, and I have not fixed that. In real life, I'm a math education professor, and that's how the podcast gets its name, Professor Purl. And I have been writing a lot about mathematical mistakes over the past month, and I won't make this like work talk, but like mistakes have just been on my mind, and like valuing mistakes and having an asset-based view of them. And so I just haven't really felt motivated to fix my mistakes. Like it's like a little reminder to me that mistakes are okay and you still get something beautiful. So the Trelawney top is designed by Tamy Gore, and I have wanted to test knit for her for a long time, and I finally just made the effort to request to be on her. She's got a Ravelry group, and if you go there, you can request to be on her like earburn list for when she has a new design that's coming out to be tested. And I finally like did it. Like I requested to be on the list, and so she, you know, messaged everybody on there that she had this new design that needed to be tested, and you could reach out. And I love all of her designs. Like if you go, I mean, she has so many followers, so perhaps you already follow her, but if you don't, you should go to her Instagram because it's just so good. Like I just want all the sweaters that she's designed. They're just really modern, but also incorporate like kind of traditional aspects of knitting I like color work and lace. And so, yeah, so this is a yoked color work sweater, but I think it is really like modern in the sense that this isn't a traditional repeat. While it does use a traditional lace motif, it is a longer stitch repeat. So you'll see like here, there's this grouping of 3 things, diamonds and these V's. And so I don't know, I just think she's got a really fresh perspective, I think, and I really like it. And I have to say, if you watch this podcast, you know I love to knit sweaters, and so I've knit quite a few sweaters, and it was probably like I'm trying to decide, I was like, is it the most intuitive pattern? That's what I was trying to decide. But it's like, if it's not the most intuitive pattern I've ever read, it's like pattern writing, it's up there. Like, it's just very well written, so that I would totally recommend it if it's your first time knitting a sweater. Totally recommend it. I think the only hesitation why I would say maybe this sweater wouldn't be a good first sweater is that these are just very long repeats. But if you've already knit a sweater, and this could be a very good first colorwork sweater. And I would say if you're an ambitious beginner, totally could do this. I knit this main color in Life in the Long Grass, a color called Lush, and then the light pink, although it looks a little white on the screen, but it's light pink, is a merino silk blend, so it's really shiny in person, and it is a light pink called Demure from Suburban Stitcher, and yeah, I love it. Even like, there's some little details you just can't see on the screen, like it's twisted ribbing here and on the bottom. I don't know, this is a type of piece that I will wear so much. Like, I've already worn it a ton. Like, I will wear this in the spring, early summer with shorts. I had to go into some schools today for my research. And so I have some dress pants on here, and it looks nice with that. I've styled it today with these earrings, which are like kind of a handmade earring. They're like ceramic, I think, from a local maker out here called Jennifer Joy. It looks like I intentionally purchased these to go with this sweater because it's so perfect. Like, these are pale pink and have a similar kind of fern looking motif, but I didn't. I've had these in my wardrobe for a long time, and it just serendipitous, and it's beautiful. I'm just gushing about this. But all this to say, this was a really enjoyable test knit, and I really, really hope to do another Tamy Gore test knit because I really like her designs, and it was a really, really, really fun process. This is out and released. I think it came out last week, and so anyway, love it. Okay, so this was a really big test knit for me because it was my first time doing a fingering weight test knit sweater. Although technically speaking, this is my souffle that I finished last episode. This is technically fingering weight because it's two lace weight mohairs held together. For some reason, I don't know, it felt a little like this was fingering, like more fingering, I don't know. Mohair I just think I am so obsessed with it. I could just knit it like so quickly all the time because I can't get enough of the squish. Well, I say that, this is a piece that's very utilitarian for me in my wardrobe. Like, I'm gonna wear it so much. Okay, I'm going on and on. It's like 8 minutes in and I'm just like gushing about the sweater. Okay, I'll share my next finished object. So my next finished object is like kind of like the penultimate finished object for me because it's not only a blocked pair of cozy socks, but also it's a pattern design, my very first pattern design. So these are the Celaena Socks, and they are out in the world on Ravelry. They are not out yet in another space if you don't use Ravelry, but they will be. I'm trying to figure out if I want to use Lovecrafts or Etsy. I don't want to have like 3 spaces. So if you have a preference between Lovecrafts or Etsy, I'd love to know, let me know. But these will be, the pattern is out on Ravelry, and they will be elsewhere as well, so I can be inclusive for people that don't use Ravelry. But anyway, I just want to give a huge thank you to everybody who has supported me in the various ways, whether it's test knitting this, thank you. If it was sharing it on social media and liking it, thank you. If it was that you purchased a pattern, thank you. I don't know, it sounded kind of cheesy, but I kind of feel emotional about like how supported I felt in something like so simple and tiny, like a sock, and then to have people just like surround you in love and support. it's priceless. I'm just really grateful. I couldn't feel more supported, and I'm just so grateful. That being said, let me tell you about the socks. I was really, when I was making these, in the mood for something like cozy and decadent, which is why it's a fingering and mohair held together. You can knit this in DK. And I was inspired by one of my favorite book series, Throne of Glass, and the character Celaena. So it's a luxurious sock meant to be like reading, cozy reading, wearing these. And I, as you can tell, have not worn them yet. And after this podcast, I'm gonna start wearing them, and I'm just so excited. And so even though I wanted it to be cozy and textured, I wanted it to be like very intuitive. And so this really fun texture pattern is a really intuitive 2-row repeat. And it's kind of got me down a mathy rabbit hole that I will share in a different podcast, but I'm kind of digressing now. But I do want to share that it's really fun to think about like all the ways that you can like sort of permutate knits and purls to make different textures. And I've kind of like have been like rabbit holing about like if you could make sort of like a sampling of like if you had a, you know, a 2x2 repeat, like 2 stitches 2 rows, or 3 stitches 3 rows, 4 stitches 4 rows, like, you know, if you pick your kind of like repeats and then play with the knits and purls, like all the kind of things you could like generate out of that, and they would probably be like really cool cozy textures like this that are pretty intuitive. Anyway, I'm rabbit holing. But I was like, I could do a study about all these knit stitches. That's my professor side, kind of geeking out. But anyway, I really like ribbing. And so if I take these off the sock blocker, you'll see they like, kind of like, well, I've blocked them out, but they have a lot of stretch. So yeah, I'm really excited about those. And I haven't set up the coupon code yet, but I'm going to make a YouTube viewer only kind of coupon code for these. And I will put that code here on the screen. And I won't post this code on Instagram. It'll just be for the people who watch this, because I know that some people only do YouTube and they don't do Instagram. And so if you're one of those, here's a code for you. All right, I'm gonna transition to whips. My first whip is gonna be the thing that's giving me so much joy right now. Which is the Chunky Soufflé. So I'm doing another test knit, and this is sort of the sibling to this, or the cousin maybe. So this is the Soufflé by Laura Penrose Knits, like the OG, the original. And this one is made out of chunky yarn. And I love it so much. And partly it's the yarn, and partly it's this folded collar. I've done a folded collar before in superwash yarn. I have not done a folded collar in non-superwash yarn or like super bulky yarn. And this is just, you can't feel this, but it's just the squishiest thing. And when I put it on, it doesn't bother my neck at all. It just feels like so good. I love it. And it's quite stretchy actually. So it fits over my head really fine. I feel as though this sweater is looking really small here because it's kind of an oversized sweater with, it's gonna have long, big poofy sleeves. But this sweater, when I blocked it, grew so much. So while it looks small, like I think this is gonna fit really great once I wet block it. And it is knit out of super bulky yarn and big thick needles. And so most of the testers have just like knit this in a few days. You'll notice that's not me. I'm not the knit this in a few days. I'm knitting this actually quite slowly, and it's been hurting my hands a lot. So I can only knit a few rows and then I need to take a break. And so that's really slowing me down. And actually yesterday I didn't knit at all. And I went to the zoo actually with Anna from Zebra Yarns. Hey, if you're watching this. And my hands were like aching. I was like telling her about it, that like my hands were like just like even aching at the zoo from like knitting this. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the yarn. I don't know if it's my needles and I'm not used to it. I actually mentioned it in the testing group and other people are not having that problem. Really, Laura said she did have that problem at first and then her hands adjusted. So I'm hoping maybe it's just, I'm just not used to knitting at a super bulky weight, but I actually would say I probably knit this faster. This fingering weight sweater here I'm wearing, I probably knit this faster than a super bulky yarn. Okay, so this is the Chunky Soufflé, and Laura has other soufflés, kind of nods coming out. Like I think she's going to eventually have like a children's one and a summer one. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna wanna knit them all. Whether or not I get to test knit them all, like that's fine. If I can't, I won't. But I will be making other soufflés. Like, well, I have Matilda. So like, if you don't know, if you're new to this channel, you may not know, I have a 4-year-old daughter, Matilda, who I love to knit for. And like, oh, I kind of want to do one in a matching pink as this. Okay, 2 things about the yarn. I showed this at the Scrappy Knit Night Zoom that was this week, which I'll talk about here soon. And somebody said, you just knit a pink sweater. True, this is technically pinky. To me, it's more fuchsia than like a bold pink, but yeah, I mean, they're both pink, but this is a totally different pink. And when I tried it on, like, it just is such, I feel like this is like a really good color on me. I mean, I guess this one is kind of too, but like this one is in a different way. I don't know. I was like, it's pink, but it's totally different. Like this is very like tonal and this is super solid. Anyway, it didn't even click that I was making this pink and this other one pink. To me, they're like totally different. Anyway, so that being said, let me talk about the yarn. I have kind of an interesting digression about this, which is when I applied for the Chunky Soufflé and found out that I got it, I was ecstatic. The yarn that Laura designed the sweater in is Drops Wish, and it looks like a really nice yarn. Drops Wish is not like super available in the United States. Like if you go to a local yarn store, like it's very unlikely you'll see Drops Wish, or like it's not just this like super readily available yarn. I have since found out from my friend Brenda, like I can buy it on Etsy, I guess, but I wasn't finding it readily. So I wanted to find something that was accessible in the United States, but also I knit so much with hand-dyed yarn. Like this is hand-dyed, this is hand-dyed, and that's wonderful, and I obviously love that. But I was thinking like it would be nice to like find something that was like more like budget friendly for people that might watch the podcast, or I don't know, it's nice to have options. And so I was kind of on pursuit for a budget friendly yarn to do the chunky sweater in. And so I went to Knit Picks, and there's this yarn called Wonder Fluff. And it's a similar construction as Drop Wish in that it uses this sort of like nylon tube, and it has alpaca and merino blown into it. And Drops Wish has a cotton tube with alpaca and merino blown into it. And So this color is Cosmopolitan. It's 142 yards for 50 grams. It's 70% baby alpaca, 23% nylon, 7% merino wool. And it says that it uses sizes, US size 10 and 11, which is actually what Drop Swish says as well. So it was off on the yardage, like the Drop Swish for 50 grams was like 72 yards, I think, or something like that. And this is 142, so that should have been my red flag that this isn't quite as thick as Drop Swish, but I purchased it nonetheless. And on the last episode, I mentioned that I decided to go to the reviews and people said that it really isn't a bulky yarn, that it knits more worsted. And so then I went to Ravelry as I'm waiting for the yarn to arrive. Then I went on to Ravelry and I looked at people's projects, and some people's projects looked like it was a bulky yarn, and then some people's projects it looked like it was a worsted yarn. So it's like really unsure how this would work. And let's see here. It looks like I only brought one swatch out. I swatched a lot for this with a single strand and then a double strand, and ultimately this was the gauge swatch that had the fabric that I liked the most and met requirements for the pattern. So that required me to hold these doubles. So to get the super bulky kind of gauge, I am holding 2 strands of the Wonder Fluff together, but I had only bought enough to knit it singularly at first, so I had to order another round. So I had these conflicting feelings where I was like in pursuit of a budget-friendly yarn, and if I had only bought like one, like the original 7 skeins of it, like it was, or not skeins, but hanks, like balls. If I had bought the original 7 of these, it would have been a very budget-friendly sweater. But then I had to buy like double the amount so I could hold it double. Like I'm holding 2 strands of these to get the gauge, which makes it less budget-friendly, which I was kind of feeling down about. But then I was talking to my husband Kyle about it, and I was like, well, but I really, really like this yarn. Like, I don't think at this point I would pick a different yarn. Like, I truly just really love this yarn. It's super soft and squishy. You can just see it's like super fluffy here. It's so soft. It looks fantastic. And it's my first time knitting a sweater out of Knit Picks yarn, and I don't know, I'm really liking it. So it's okay that it's less budget friendly, I guess. But then I circled back to thinking maybe this is budget friendly even though I'm holding it double, because I was thinking, what other super bulky yarns have I used in sweaters? And I have knit 2 other sweaters in my wardrobe that use super bulky yarn. And I've knit them out of Loopy Mango, and I really enjoyed that yarn, but it was kind of expensive, and still more expensive than me buying 14 balls of Wonder Fluff. So I came to the conclusion that it is a more budget-friendly option than if you're going to use Loopy Mango. And I really enjoy it. And my Loopy Mango sweaters I have, they actually shed a ton. And right now, this is not shedding at all on me. I'm wearing black pants. I've been knitting it everywhere, and that's kind of nice too. So I guess I'm saying I'm a big fan of this Knit Picks Wonder Fluff. And the actually exciting thing I was thinking is I'm not really sure what gauge or yarn Laura's designing the children's version of the souffle at. Like, I'm not sure if she's doing it super bulky or maybe she's doing it worsted. Since this yarn is kind of like a chameleon, I feel like look at it. Like, it can be thinner if you want it to be, I feel like, or thicker, because it's fuzzing, kind of fills in the gaps. I was thinking I potentially could use, like, if the children's parents designed or worsted, I could have the super bulky version in this color, and then if the children's like is worsted or something like this, or even bulky, like I could use this again, and Matilda I could actually really match. So anyway, I'm really excited about that. And yeah, so this is the whip of all whips. Knitting jewelry. I have a really cool Katrinkles stitch marker I'm using. I hardly get to use it. It's like a moon, kind of reflective, because I hardly ever knit with giant needles. And for my stitch marker, I'm using this pink glittery Arkansas yarn company. It's a state of Arkansas, which I've actually never been to, but I just think it like matches my sweater like so good, and it's been giving me joy. I love my knitting jewelry. You'll have to let me know if you've got some knitting jewelry that brings you joy. Like it's a way that like I just get like pumped about my projects again. Okay, this is quite a long time. I'm gonna keep going here. Other whips. You've seen this a lot on this podcast, but it is worthy of showing progress at this point. This is my Redneck Cardigan. I am knitting this as part of this Scrappy sweater Makealong, which is a long Makealong going on through this channel where we are knitting Scrappy sweaters. There's Zoom knit nights. They're the first Tuesday of every month, and we had one this past week, and it was super, super fun. And so I just encourage you to, you know, join in on Ravelry, on the chatter there, or on Instagram using the hashtag Scrappy Sweater Along. So the last time we chatted on this podcast, I was right here where this progress keeper is, which is a Simply Serving Purple Peep, which I thought was so good for the season. And when my hands were hurting and I needed a break from the Chunky Soufflé, I just did some knitting. And so here I finished this color, which was called Wink, I think. It's really dusty pink. And then on Scrappy Sunday, this past Sunday, I decided, you know, I'm gonna do Scrappy Sunday. I did this color here, which is really beautiful, called Early Sunrise. Oh, Stressness is a dyer. And I started this other color here, which I think is called Folklore. And I didn't have these all wound up like my last 4 mini skeins, like this one and then 2 more. So I'm on the last 4 of the ribbon, and my other half is done. So I'll be able to graft these together soon. And really the Makealong is this no pressure sort of scrappy sweater. Makealong, you know, people make scrappy blankets. Think about that mentality towards a scrappy sweater. And having the Zoom knit night, like, was really nice accountability. I started this color here, and it's just like this motivation to not forget about this project and let it like languish or something like this. And I know that I'm gonna wear this. It's gonna be a really fun, I feel like kind of artistic, like piece of art in my wardrobe that's like a little funky, but like super treasured. I don't know. I just really, it's like a whole scene. Like the whole thing is like a joyful thing. Like I keep all my Ravelry supplies in this giant basket, and I carry it around the house, out on the porch, in my office. I laminated the pattern. I won't show it, but I have wet erase markers that I check off things on it. I just, like, I love this, like, the feeling of working on this. I mean, even if I dislike the way the Redneck Cardigan turns out, like, I honestly will care less, because the whole process has been so, like, therapeutic and, like, comforting. And I just, as soon as that's done, this Redneck, I am going to cast on another scrappy sweater. So that's my goal for the Makealong. And so I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do a sea glass next. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to use the leftovers from this advent, because there's actually enough leftovers for me to do a like kind of finger and weight shirt like this. I was watching Kaylee from Breaking Yarn. She's got a podcast you should go check out. And she did a short sleeve sea glass tee, and it just looks like a sweater like this, where like it's something I would wear all the time, easy to wear, something like as a mom, you can wear easy with jeans, something you can wear easy to teach in with like dress pants. And so part of me wants to do the fingering one, but I've been just doing this fingering yarns that I was like, a little part of me wants to maybe cast on a different one with my other wonderful Scrappy yarn I have. So I don't know, I'm gonna just keep going, and it's just something I'm gonna be doing. I think that's what this basket will be devoted for, like for a very long time. It's just Scrappy sweaters. Okay. My other whip that I'm just going so slow on, but I don't care, is a pair of socks. I am knitting friend socks with my friend Anna from Zebra Yarns. Basically, we each shared a skein of yarn. So this is Explorer Knits, and this is Palmer Yarn Smarties. I can't ever get this straight what this one's called. It's like something about a barrel and being sour. But it looks so good together, those pinks and purples. And I'm done with the leg, and I've just started the heel flap. I'm actually mid-heel flap knitting right now, awkwardly, so it's hard to show. I'm using Anina's method for jogless stripes, which I will link below. It's a very nice little reel that she made on Instagram, and I'm using Addie flip sticks, which are double pointed needles. I really prefer 9-inch circ spinning socks, but I just love trying something new. So that's what I'm doing these on. And you'll see what's funny about me saying I prefer 9-inch circs soon, but anyway, I just wanted to show that I have worked on that. And I knit socks pretty slowly, but basically I only work on this in the car. Okay, my last whip. As you can see, everything I'm knitting is in the round and round stage. Like, I'm technically in my Rabbit knitting flat, but it's knitting, purling, knitting, purling. On my Chunky Soufflé, I'm just knitting round and round. On my socks, I'm just knitting round and round. And I needed something else. Like, I'll talk about this more in the Professor Purl's segment, but I needed something else. So I am knitting a toe-up sock that's cabled. It's kind of blowing out. It's looking very yellowy in this light. Let's see here. Okay, that's a little bit more accurate. I might leave the light like that. Okay. Let's see what's better when I come back. I don't know. Well, nonetheless, I'm knitting a magic loop sock. I think 9 inches are better than magic loop, but I was like feeling like watching, or I was feeling like knitting with the magic loop. Like I was like craving it. I don't understand it because I just like, I wanted to use these Chowgu cables and that feeling. I just was wanting that, even though I do like the 9-inch circulars better. And I was wanting a toe-up sock. I'm actually wearing a pair of toe-up socks now. Let's see here. They're like a pencil. I've knit 2 pairs of toe-up socks. All the rest of my socks have been cuffed down. I love cuffed down top socks so much. From Kay from the Crazy Sock Lady in her store. I don't know if she has it now, but like last year she had in her store these stitch markers that said like team cuffed down, and I bought a team cuffed down stitch marker, and I'm just like, cuffed down's the best. But I just was like noticing that these these little pencil socks, like they're like my favorite. And I was like, is it just the fit, or like, I don't know. And so they're my only shorties and toe-ups that I wear a lot. And So anyway, I just was really feeling like knitting a toe-up sock and doing a cut and heel. And yeah, so that's how this got cast on. And whenever I need an intellectual break, like from the round and round, I just do a little repeat here. This is like a 4-stitch repeat. And I'm really excited. I'm actually going to duplicate stitch read on the bottom of this sock. And then on the other sock, I'm going to duplicate stitch the word more. So like when I put my feet up, it's going to say read more. And, you know, so it's like a little fiddly to me, like in the sense like I have all this like cabling going on and, but I just needed something like that, if that makes any sense. Like I needed, well, this is a good transition to the Professor's Pearls segment. So in the segment for Professor's Pearls is sort of my reflections on being a professor and like how that connects to my knitting world. So as a educator, I kind of have the mentality that like all reading is good reading. This kind of came to mind recently. I was watching the We Share Needles podcast and Kristen made a joke about the V.C. Andrews books. And I noticed on Instagram other people thought that was funny. They were like, haha, I remember reading those. And I read a ton of V.C. Andrews books in middle school. I also read a ton of Stephen King books when I was in middle school, like young. And sort of in my household, like we didn't have rules around reading. And like, I think that's like a good thing, like in the sense of like, it just, like I just would devour the books. I was interested in them. And of course, everybody might feel differently about this and that's okay. But I really just think that having a, kind of a ferocious appetite for books is not a bad thing. And whatever reading brings you joy, like brings you joy. Like, and I kind of feel the same way about math. Like whatever math somebody wants to do, if they're doing it recreationally, that's amazing. Whatever somebody wants to read, like that's amazing. And that is sort of like kind of a little bit of the inspiration behind like me putting read more. Particularly like when you see like kind of the things kind of going on in the United States right now, like if you search like banned books and things like this, and there's certain books that are being banned from school libraries and I don't know, I just sort of this idea of like putting read more as like me like kind of like pushing back on that, like not agreeing with that. And anyway, so what I'm trying to say is all reading has its purpose for each human. Like as somebody reads something, it gives them fulfills a different purpose in their life. And another person, when they read something, it might fulfill another purpose. Like perhaps when one person's reading a book, they see themselves in the characters. Or perhaps when somebody else is reading that same book, they see a perspective that's different from their own. And like all of that is worthy. That's my kind of professor-teacher 2 cents. What does that have to do with knitting? In a similar way, like this transcends to like how I feel about math. Like all math is good. Like at the knit night, or even in some of my comments on YouTube where people will say like crafting is a different kind of math. It's not like real math. Well, like crafting math is still math, and it's just as real as school mathematics. It's maybe we're not doing it in school mathematics, but it's still real math. And in the same way, all knitting is worthy knitting. Whether you're knitting round and round, it's still fulfilling a purpose, versus if you're doing something a little bit more complicated, it's also fulfilling a purpose. So for me, like the round and round knitting can be very therapeutic, very comforting, and also very utilitarian. Like the round and round knitting makes a beautiful sock and really highlights some of the yarn. Or knitting round and round gives me the body of a sweater that I can put on and wear, and all that is like fantastic. And so purpose in my life right now is like, I just needed something a little bit more intellectually and knitting demanding. Like, it's not that I don't love round and round knitting, it fulfills a purpose in my life, but I just needed something else. Thus the cables. So that's my professor's pearls, is that all knitting has a purpose, as is reading. So yeah, if you are really enjoying those cozy mysteries right now and you're feeling like, well, I wish I should be reading something more intellectual or reading The Hobbit or something, like, don't feel guilty about it. Read your cozy mystery in peace. Like, we all of our reading and all of our knitting, it fulfills a purpose for us. So with one of the dream knitting pieces, I went to the Scrappy Makealong Zoom. You know, it's part of the channel, so I was there. And 3 people in there were talking about Laura Penrose's design, the Souffle, which came out this week. If Laura, if you're watching this, or some chance right now, congratulations. And so 3 people in the Zoom night were talking about the Souffle and how they needed to purchase the pattern immediately and they wanted to cast it on right away. And then one person in the knit night joked that they wouldn't mind if there was a Makealong for it on this channel. And then that had me thinking, well, perhaps we could do a Souffle Makealong. And I searched the hashtag more Souffle, please. And it's not really owned by anybody. There's like 1 post there, I think, right now. And so I was thinking that could be a really cool hashtag for our Makealong, more Souffle, please, if we did it. But then I was thinking, I do want to knit another Souffle, I do, so I'd be down for that. I also really want to knit, I've mentioned this in the podcast before, this sweater on the cover, and it also has a ruffle. So then I wondered if I should just do some sort of ruffle knit along, like some kind of ruffle, I don't know. I don't want to say ruffle along, but like just some sort of like ruffle knit along where like any ruffle could be part of it. And so I just would love to know your thoughts on either a Souffle knit along or a ruffle knit along. Let me know your thoughts. And okay, so that's one thing I've been just thinking about is like the next Souffle. Like, I want to knit one that's long sleeve, and I definitely want to knit one that's either black or neon, like a neon coral or something. So that's on my mind. And yeah, so okay. The other dream knitting thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I have been thinking about this hat for months, and I even tried to cast one on, which is, if I use the American pronunciation, the Musselburgh. I'll link the American pronunciation link below, but if you want to use the British pronunciation, which is Musselburgh, I'll link that pronunciation link below as well. So however you want to say it, that hat, I have not knit it yet. I own the pattern. I cast it on and then I didn't like the fabric, so I ripped it out, and that yarn ended up becoming these socks. So it all worked out beautifully, but I still don't have a Musselburgh hat. So I really want to cast one on. The only reason why I haven't cast one on yet today, as you can see, I have 3 projects that are in round and round stage. So I said to myself, when I finish one of the round and roundies, like once one of these 3 is no longer in round and round knit stockinette land, I'm going to cast one of these on. So this is in my stash, and I purchased it in October when I was at Wild Hand in Philadelphia, which is a wonderful yarn store. If I remember, I'll link the interview below. It was so fantastic. And you can see this is like, oh, this is going to be Musselburgh one day. Okay, I'll talk about this more in acquisitions, but I recently acquired this, and it is an Arkansas Yarn Company yarn called Puddle Jumper. Again, I'll talk about this more later, but I also very much want this in a Musselburgh. And I wanted to cast it on right away because it's technically an April colorway, and it's April now. It's called Puddle Jumper. But I also was like, I haven't ever cast it on yet, and I need to do these other round and round things. And so anyway, I am going to knit both of these into Musselburgh, and I'm going to cast one of these on once one of these 3 things are done, which could happen in the next 2 weeks. And so my question for you is, which Musselburgh would you do first? This kind of neutrally one? This is a kind of a neutral color in my book. Or this bright one? Which one? Which one first? They're both gonna be Musselburghs, but which one first? So this Sip Sip Knit segment is going to be filmed in the car really quick. Where are we headed to right now, Kyle? Caravan to go get coffee. So you don't know this, Kyle. I put a poll on Instagram, and I asked people to ask us questions for the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
And then you'll...
Sounds ridiculous.
And then you answer it, and then I'll answer it. Okay?
All right.
Okay. So I'll share 2 because we are in a limited time here, because after we go to coffee, we're going to pick Matilda up from preschool. So 2 questions. So Kristen asked how many pink sweaters I've made.
I have no idea. 8 at least.
At least 8?
Yes.
I was going to say double digits.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it really depends on our definition of pink. Like my souffle I made. Is that pink?
Yeah, probably.
Like, I don't know.
That.
Is that a pink sweater?
Yeah.
Do you think this is a pink sweater? It's kind of fuchsia.
Yeah, I would count that as pink. Maybe shady pink. Come on.
Definitely a dozen. Definitely double digits. I just don't know if it's a baker's dozen. I should make a video maybe. Where like, I've been thinking about making a video called like a pink sweater parade, but do you think that'd be a cool video?
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. His enthusiasm's low about it. Okay. All right. My second question is from Caleb. Caleb asked, how do you let your partner know that you're counting stitches without stopping mid-count? Like, how do you let your partner know, like you're counting your stitches, but you don't want to say, stop talking to me, I'm counting stitches. Like, how do you let them know mid-count? Have I ever done that to you?
Yeah.
How do you let me know you're counting?
I don't know if I've ever let you know I'm counting.
Do you just ignore me?
I don't know. I'd probably stop and start over.
That's such a Kyle answer. I would just stop and start over. I have a strategy here.
Yeah.
What's my strategy? What do you think my strategy is?
You make a funny sound like, I don't know.
Yeah, or I like start counting really loud. Like, 20, 22.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not stopping counting. It's typical Kyle that he would, because he's sweet. Anyway, so that's Sip Sip Knit. We answered some knitting questions.
Yeah.
Now, Kyle's knit a sweater. He hasn't shared it on the podcast yet. Maybe you should share it one day.
Yeah, someday.
You've knit a sweater and,
I've never worn it. Yeah, maybe I have.
You did wear it.
One time?
Yeah. The problem is, what weight did you knit your sweater in?
It's worsted, isn't it?
Yeah. That's not...
It's not Oregon.
Now some Oregonians
this part of Oregon.
There's some more,
sure.
Kyle, though, there's some Oregonians wearing this saying, or watching this show right now that live out here, and they're saying we can wear worsted sweaters.
Some people can. Make me hot and sweaty.
We are from the Midwest, so worsted sweaters are not ideal for us.
Yeah.
Unless we're in the Midwest.
Yep.
We've knit a sweater vest. All I have to say is,
yeah, that's out of fingering. So
yeah,
I
yours.
just haven't worn it in a long time.
It looks really nice and dressy when you wear it. His are not like pink though. They're, so I wanted to share.
No.
They're both kind of moody jewel tones, as I would say. Like one's like Whiskey Barrel from Mad Tosh is kind of like a brown.
Yeah, brown with some dark blue in it.
And then what's the other one? How would you call that sweater? I don't even know what to call that sweater.
It's like dark blue with, it's a tonal dark blue. I don't remember the name of it.
It's like Dubrovnik.
Yeah, there might be some black in it, but in the most part it's blue.
You haven't worn it enough. Maybe I'll start wearing it. No. I like to take over his clothes. Do you do that with your partners? Like, I like to wear his clothes. It annoys Kyle that I steal his clothes a lot.
No comment.
What's the most recent item I've stolen from you?
Patagonia pullover.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's another thing that's kind of too warm.
That's it. He wasn't wearing it, so I thought.
I also stole a down vest.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention the Burberry scarf.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has become too long already because we're trying to keep it short. So we're going to go get our coffee. Bye. Want to do cheers, Kyle? Cheers. So what'd you get to drink, Kyle?
Cold brew.
Do you remember what kind of cold brew?
It's the single origin for the month. Columbia Finca something. Let's see.
Some people just got out of their car and saw us videoing what we were drinking. That's what it is. Yeah. And that's our coffee subscription. That's a Christmas present for my mom.
Yep.
We love it.
Great.
And then I got and I ordered it myself, so I remember it. I got a oat milk latte.
Honey cinnamon
oat milk latte. So it tastes like a cookie. It's like so good. If you like oatmeal cookies, which
I do.
Yeah, he doesn't do the, like, I call it a foo-foo drink, like a drink with like any extra.
Cold brew with no cream.
Yeah. So we're just on different ends of the coffee spectrum. Yeah, you have to let me know if you're like one of those people that, I feel like there's some people that are like, everybody's a coffee drinker, and then there's like people like Kyle that's like, black coffee is the way to go.
I don't mind a latte every now and then, but.
Oh, really?
I like black coffee.
I don't really remember Kyle getting a latte ever. Oh, he gets a flat white. Is that what you're calling a latte?
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, it's not like, but I don't know. It's a latte, technically speaking, but it's not like a latte that like a lot of people.
It's not flavored.
Yeah, it's not flavored. Anyway,
it's a plain latte.
We've exceeded oversharing in the sip knit here. All right. All right, toodles. Bye. One of my acquisitions since I last filmed was the Sock Yarn Society box, and I don't usually do mystery boxes with knitting. I do mystery boxes with my stationery supplies and like journaling and planning supplies. I get a surprise box through this company called Erin Condren, I do their seasonal surprise box almost every season, and I use everything in it. I tend to not be that way with yarn because I am a slow sock knitter, and so just to acquire lots of single skeins of yarn when I mostly like to knit garments, like just doesn't really, it just doesn't bode well for me, like in my stash and managing it. And I also like to like have control over what yarn I'm getting. And so, yeah, I'm just not much of a mystery box person with yarn, but I watched Lindsay from Always Yarn First do an unboxing video with Lori from Arkansas Yarn Company, and I was like watching the Arkansas Yarn Company YouTube channel as well, and I felt like influenced. Like I loved the February box, so it was opened in February, but it was like the March yarn. I loved it. I loved the yarn, the aesthetic of it, and I loved the extras. And that's not, I normally don't, when people show their extras and things, I'm normally like, oh, it's okay. I loved it. So I felt influenced and I purchased it. So, and then when it came, I actually felt really kind of emotional because I have a young preschooler and she loves jumping in puddles, and it's called Puddle Jumper. And I had messaged Lori, like, I love this yarn. And she sent me the picture that was sort of like the inspiration for the yarn. It was this young girl like hopping in a puddle, and it made me think of my own 4-year-old. And I just felt very like kind of like emotional, like this is so beautiful. And yeah, for me, the yarn looks like a bluish gray. I don't know if that's actually what it is, but it's just like how it looks to me. And there's these like speckles in it that are like coral, blue, yellow. And I got the Yummy High Twist base, which is 85 superwash merino, 85% superwash merino, and 15% nylon. And I love like a plump squishy base. This would be excellent socks, and I really like kind of wanted to cast on socks because it just felt so good. But I think I just feel kind of sentimental about this colorway. Like I'm loving it so much that I thought like this needs to be something that like people see because it's so beautiful, and so it needs to be a hat. That's a musclework. It came with a nice extra, which was soak. I've misplaced it at the time. I can't show it to you. And a row counter. Anyway, I'm not going to show those. If you want to see what those look like, you can watch Lindsay from Always Yarn First or the We Share Needles podcast because they show it. But I will show you the kind of 2 extras I'm just obsessed with. So they make these stitch markers in-house, and they're the state of Arkansas, which again, like who am I using these stitch markers of the state of Arkansas when I've never even been there? But like, I can't, I love it so much. Look at that. It is a clear state of Arkansas with like little glittery umbrellas for April. So that's why I was like, I probably need to cast this on so I can use these little umbrellas. But I mean, I live in Oregon, it's always raining, except in the summer. Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay, then this little tiny plastic, I don't know, plastic container. I mean, normally I'm not into this kind of stuff, like, but I am. It's a little tiny plastic container with like little light bulb stitch markers. So instead of like having to pack a new Notions bag or something, I can just pop this into my little sock. I mean, I might as well actually just pop it into here right now. It's like so good. Yeah, I was really happy. Okay. I have 2 more acquisitions. The next is actually a prize. I participated in the Adventually Mal, so like it was a make-along after the holiday season to work on those advents eventually. It was so cute. And as you can see, I'm still eventually working on it. And so that was hosted by Breaking Yarn and Leah Loves to Knit, and I won a prize. And it is this yarn sock set from the Purling Perry. It's blowing out a little bit. It is really pretty, kind of like aqua, I don't know, robin's egg color with these navy and turquoise and purple speckles with a very beautiful, strong purple mini. Immediately, I thought of my daughter Matilda because she's a huge purple fan, but I kind of don't want to knit an entire pair of socks with a whole, like, she's got a tiny foot still, like, to knit her a pair of socks out of this. Maybe I could knit her a pair and me a pair, like matching shorties or something. I don't know. So it was a really nice surprise. So thank you. I don't know if you happen to be watching this, Leah or Michaeli, or the Purling Perry, but you know, thank you so much. Really, after the Roasted Yarn Crawl, I really felt passionately that I didn't need more yarn. But it was Pi Day, which if you don't know, in the math world, March 14th is one of the days you can celebrate for Pi Day, and it is, I don't know, a fun day. It's kind of sentimental towards me. I used to have, when I was a high school math teacher, a whole week I would call Pi Palooza, and I would do all these fun activities for the whole week, and on the morning announcements for the whole school, have like Pi facts announced, and I don't know, I just feel sentimental towards it. And so Purl and Postulates had a spring yarn line launch, which is still available, I think, on their website now. And every colorway had a mathy themed name. I was kind of like, I want all of them. I really don't need all of them. And so I ended up getting a fingering and mohair set. I'm thinking I actually might knit a beret out of this. This slice of pie beret is what I'm leaning towards. I haven't forgot about my beret love, in case we're wondering. And yeah, look at these. So these are the same colorways, just one on the, I forget what base this is called, but it's a base listed here. It might be. It's the Harris sock, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. And this colorway is called Irrationally Imaginary. And I even like this kind of font here, this Irrationally Imaginary. I have my typewriter from when I was 6 years old, and I still use it actually. And it has that kind of similar font as my typewriter. And yeah, and so it's a joke. Like the number I says, you know, be rational, because, and that's funny because pi is not a rational number. And then pi says get real, and that's funny because I is not a real number. Although, just side note, that's really bad PR for this number, because like, I think some people think like, well, if it's not a real number, well, I need to learn it. I mean, it's real in the like world, like wavelengths and different things like this incorporate it is a real number. I think we just have like history, just bad PR like for this number, but anyway, I won't digress. But the don't want to take away from the colorway here, which is really great. And it makes me think of Matilda because it's like purpley and things like this. So I could make her something out of it. I'm not going to for sure make a slice of pie beret out of it, but like it is the first thing that pops into my mind right now. For personal life, if you are only here for the knitting and you enjoyed something today, don't forget to like and subscribe or comment below, all that business. Thanks so much for joining. If you're here to stay for the personal life stuff, I think I'm going to talk about books for a little bit. Okay. So I always read at least more than one book at a time because I like to read on my Kindle and I like to read a physical book. and I like an audiobook. So that means I'm at least reading 2 or 3 books at a time. And if I have any space when Matilda's awake or it's daylight or whatever to physically read a book, I like to physically read a book. I'm also currently, or I was currently listening to this on my audiobook, and I would have it open and would actually be reading and listening to it simultaneously at times. And at times I was just listening to it. The audiobook has expired from my library, and so now I will be just reading this exclusively. And so that's one purpose, is just sort of the use of the book. But for me, this series, I love fantasy. I love things with dragons. There's not really dragons in there. There's like fairies and things in here. But I love these sort of like worlds that you have to learn that are different from our world. And that is a different type of intellectual engagement with a book that I really crave. So that's one reason why I like fantasy, is I just really like, basically if you open up a book and there's a map in it, this one doesn't have a map. But if it has a map, that's usually a clear sign that I'm gonna love it. This one does have a map. This is a clear sign I'm gonna love the book. But sometimes as a distressor, I need a different type of book. And so every night before I go to bed, I actually read in the dark with my Kindle, because the Kindle has like a soft light on it. And so I read in the dark until I fall asleep. And so that does mean that sometimes I am sleeping with my Kindle. And so that's one purpose of reading a book in a different way. But then also I was reading The Night Circus. I don't know if I mentioned this on here, and I was reading it on the Kindle, and it might be a good book. I've made it 50% of the way in, and I was really bored reading it. And I don't know if it's because I was reading it on my Kindle at night, as I'm saying, but I just wasn't getting into it at all. And so I've abandoned ship 50% of the way in. And part of me is like a little bit completionist, like I need to finish this book. But then the other part of me is like, no, move on. And what I needed was like one of those like fluffy, like, you don't really have to learn a different world, like equivalent to a cozy mystery, but I picked it off of my Kindle. Every month, if you have an Amazon Prime membership, you get a free first reads book. It's like a new book that came out, and you can pick from these books. And so it was a Kindle first reads, and it's called, I think, All Are Welcome. And it is just a very light, I don't know, I would call it beach read. It's sort of a romance, but there's not. So far, I mean, only 30 or 40% of the way in. There's nothing that's like, it's not like a Bridgerton romance. Like it's like a very easy read. I don't know. And I needed that. And I've noticed, like, I've read 30% of this book in like a third of the time that it took me to read 50% of Night Circus, just because I needed something really light. So I decided to share sort of like the purposes reading fills in my life a little bit sometimes. There's other purposes too, which I won't rabbit hole on that right now, but and then I thought I would share some books that I like to read to Matilda, if you're interested. I thought one I would share, I just recently found at the library. It's called Spin a Scarf of Sunshine. And I wanted to share this with the viewers here just because the illustrations are really beautiful. So I think Dawn Casey is the author, and I think this Stella Lim is the illustrator, and they're just like, they're just really beautiful illustrations. And what I wanted to share it with the viewers of this podcast is it actually goes through, like, if you're a spinner, I think you would find this interesting. Like, it shows, like, shearing the fleece. It shows washing the fleece and brushing the fleece. And there's like a little drop spindle in here. And yeah, and I know that some of the podcasts I watch, people are spinners. And yeah, and they end up naturally dyeing the wool with like sunshine, essentially. I thought that was really, I don't know, it's just really beautiful. So I thought that people might enjoy that. It might be a fairly new book. It's new to our library. It was first published in 2020 and then first published in the USA in 2021. So, you know, it's not new, but it was new to my library. Anyway, I really enjoyed reading that to Matilda. And I wanted to share this book that I have been really enjoying reading to her, which is called Everybody's Welcome, No Matter Who You Are. And essentially it's just different forest animals, and it's a beautiful narrative of like, when you think about what things are happening in our world, it's a way to gently introduce that to our children. Like basically there's this frog and his pond's all dried up and he has no place to go, and so he goes to the mouse and says, I have no place to go. And so then mouse works on creating a space for him and helping him rebuild a home. And this happens to forest animal after forest animal, where they're all helping each other out building new homes, and the illustrations are just really beautiful. Yeah, so I've really enjoyed reading that. Oh, and then being a math lover as I am, I couldn't help but share my other favorite book to read to her, which is Infinity in Me. And I thought like the common thread here is beautiful illustrations. And I really love these illustrations. Like I wouldn't mind a whole print of this staying on my wall. Like I love it. So basically Uma wonders what infinity is, and she asks a bunch of people in her life, like kids in her class, her teacher, like what they think infinity is. And so it's just sort of the musings that people and children in her life have of infinity, but actually like very like subtly touches on kind of advanced mathematical topics. Like this noodle, like it doesn't go into like infinitely. Like if you split a noodle in half and then that half in half and then that half in half and that half in half and that half in half, it like that's kind of a calculus topic, but it doesn't go into that, but it just sort of introduced the ideas. So I think, and in the end, it's kind of a lovely message where at the end she's talking about her love of her grandma. And so it's like, here's a picture of her and her grandma and them looking at the stars. And so there's this like also personal connection at the end too. So some books that I've been into lately, I share those as my favorite books. And talking about kind of circling back to purpose, I read some of my favorite books, Matilda, but I also read things that she likes to read, which would be maybe far less interesting to share on the podcast, like showing like a My Little Pony book, or even though it's spring, she loves Halloween. And so we read Halloween books now. And yeah, so, you know, I think, yeah, it's just fun to, any kind of reading that creates a positive memory together is good reading. Last podcast, I showed a book we bought that had hikes. It was like 50 hikes in Oregon and Washington for kids, and one of the hikes we looked up, it was called Wilson Falls, which is in the Tillamook Forest, and so we decided to do that a couple of weekends ago, and it was really awesome. That being said, I don't necessarily agree with the author. Like the author wrote like, oh, this is like, you know, there's no ledges and things like this, but there was really small paths and there was a very clear drop off in ledge. Like at times I was like, oh, I don't know if this is the safest. But yeah, I mean, I think it was maybe about a 4-mile hike. I don't really remember. Hey, Kyle.
Yeah.
How long was the Wilson Creek hike? Was it 4 miles?
Almost, I think.
Yeah. Which is about, I think, the max to look into in a hike. It was a great, peaceful time together, but like you could tell she was getting tired. And it was just really neat because we went out and we were looking for this waterfall. What I didn't realize is the waterfall was like in the middle of the path. So these like this trail, like it connects to other trails, so you could have kept going and done like a 10-mile loop. And but you had to kind of walk through the waterfall to keep going, but we didn't. I mean, we walked in the waterfall and we played there for a while and we had just a really awesome time, but we didn't all walk through and keep going like for 10 miles. 4 miles was great. And then when we were done, it was like, it was a really sunny, nice day. And there was this river. It was like ice cold water, but we were splashing around in it and whatever. And that was really fun. And so last weekend, we've been trying to do a hike like every weekend. And so last weekend we did like a low-key hike around a town that's like nearby here. And like just to get outside, but nothing where we had to like travel really far. And I think it's like thinking about like how to move forward about like managing time and doing hikes and things. I think it's a good idea to kind of mix your month up with things that maybe don't have the waterfall, but like are get you outside and are close to home so you can get things done around the house, and also like ones that maybe you have to drive a little further. It was kind of like a nice mix to have that over the past 2 weeks. And other than that, there hasn't been much going on. Matilda has resumed her lessons. Like, it was spring break and things kind of halted. And so she's restarted up ballet and swim, and she takes violin, and her swim lessons, she's actually moved up a level. So she's kind of with older kids, like that are 7, 8, and, me being mom mode, like I've been kind of nervous about it, but there was nothing to be nervous about. Like it's going really well, and it's going like, yeah, she loves swimming. She wakes up every day and asks to go swimming. And so that's been fun to see her thrive in that kind of way. Yesterday was the first day. It was in the 70s, I think in 2022 here where I live in Oregon. I could be off on that, but I don't know. Yesterday, I think was like the first like epically sunny, nice day. And so Anna from Zebra Yarns and I decided to both go to the zoo and bring our daughters on this like really nice warm day. And like, so did like all of Oregon. It was so busy there. And Anna was able to, when we were on the carousel, Matilda and I, she took a picture of Matilda and I think it's like one of my favorite pictures ever because, you know, I don't know if this happens to you if you're a mom, or like, I just don't have a lot of like nice pictures of just Matilda and I, like full body mode. That's not like a selfie or something. And so, yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. She texted me this picture and I was like, this is so good. Yeah, so the weather's getting nicer here. And so it's hard to do things inside. I really wanted to film this outside, but I was just really worried about the noise. It was funny. I got so many comments that people enjoyed like the bird noises or wondered what the bird that was. And I sometimes will video chat some of my friends on social media, like on Marco Polo or Snapchat or something. And they always comment about the birds if I'm outside. And I kind of really appreciated sort of like the redirection of like other people noticing the bird noises. It helps you. I think you get used to kind of the sound of things. And so it's nice to be reminded of those like little things. So Anyway, thank you so much for listening and being part of this, like coming over to this space and YouTube. I really appreciate the community around and like kind of like be on your team and supporting you when you try something new, like designing a pair of socks. It just something it's priceless and I will forever be grateful for. So thank you. Anyway, I'll see you soon, hopefully in 2 weeks.